We are going to be reading chapter 4 of Boxcar Children together today. When we left off at the end of chapter 3, the children had found the boxcar. They convinced Henry to stay there at least for the night. He went off to get milk, and the girls and Benny were there by themselves, and they heard a noise in the woods. So let's read and see if we can find out what it was. Chapter 4 is called Henry Has Two Surprises. Jessie whispered, "Keep still." The 3 children did not say a word. They sat quietly in the boxcar looking at the bushes. "I wonder if it's a bear," thought Benny. Soon something came out, but it wasn't a bear. It was a dog, which hopped along on 3 legs, crying softly and holding up a front paw. "It's all right," said Jessie. "It's only a dog, but I think it's hurt." The dog looked up and saw the children, and then he wagged his tail. "Poor dog," said Jessie. "Are you lost? Come over here and let me look at your paw." The children hopped over to the boxcar. The dog hopped over to the boxcar, and the children got out. Jessie looked at the paw and said, "Oh dear, you poor dog, there's a big thorn in your foot." The dog stopped crying and looked at Jessie. "Good dog," said Jessie. "I can help you, but it might hurt." The dog looked up at Jessie and wagged his tail again. "Violet," ordered Jessie, "please wet my handkerchief in the brook." Jessie sat down on the stump and took the dog in her lap. She patted him and gave him a little piece of bread. Then she began to pull out the thorn. It was a long thorn, but the dog did not make any noise. Jessie pulled and pulled, and at last the thorn came out. Violet had a wet handkerchief ready. Jessie put it around the dog's paw, and he looked up at her and wagged his tail a little. "He wants to say thank you, Jessie," cried Violet. "He's a good dog." "Yes, he is," agreed Jessie. "Now I had better hold him for a while so that he will lie down and rest his leg." "We can surprise Henry," remarked Benny. "Now we have a dog." "So we can," said Jessie, "but that was not my surprise. I was going to get a lot of blueberries for supper." "Can't we look for blueberries while you hold the dog?" asked Violet. "Yes, you can," said Jessie. "Look over there by the big trees." Benny and Violet ran over to look. "Oh, Jessie," cried Benny, "did you ever see so many blueberries?" "I guess 5 blueberries. No, there's probably 10 blueberries." Jessie laughed. "I think there are more than 5 or 10, Benny," she said. "Get a clean towel and pick them into it." For a while, Jessie watched Benny and Violet picking blueberries. "Most of Benny's blueberries are going into his mouth," she thought with a laugh. "But maybe that's just as well. He won't get so hungry while he's waiting for Henry to come back with the milk." She carried the dog over to the children and sat down beside them, the dog on her lap. With her help, the towel was soon full of blueberries. "I wish we had some dishes," Jessie said. "Then we could have blueberries and milk." "Never mind," said Violet. "When Henry comes, we can eat some blueberries, and then we can take a drink of milk." When Henry came, he had some heavy bundles. He had 4 bottles of milk in a bag, a loaf of brown bread, and also some fine yellow cheese. He looked at the dog. "Where did you get that dog?" he said. "He came to us," said Benny. "He's a surprise for you." Henry went over to the dog, who wagged his tail. Henry patted him and said, "He ought to be a good watchdog. Why is there a handkerchief on his foot?" "He had a big thorn in it," answered Violet, "and Jessie took it out and put on the handkerchief. It hurt him, but he didn't cry or growl." "His name is Watch," remarked Benny. "Oh, is it?" asked Jessie, laughing. "Watch is a good name for a watchdog." "Did you bring some milk?" asked Benny, looking at the bottles. "I sure did," replied Henry. 4 bottles. "Poor old Benny," said Jessie. "We'll have dinner now." Now Jessie liked to have things in order, so she put the laundry bag on some pine needles for a tablecloth. Then she cut the loaf of brown bread into 5 big pieces. The cheese was cut into 4. "Dogs don't like cheese," remarked Benny. The poor little boy was glad, too, because he was very hungry. Violet put the 4 bottles of milk on the table, and Jessie put some blueberries and cheese at each place. "Blueberries!" cried Henry. "Jessie, you had 2 surprises for me." Well, I'm sorry we don't have any cups, Jessie said. We'll have to drink out of the bottles. Now let's all go and sit down. Look, Benny, said Henry, you take some blueberries, then eat some brown bread, then some cheese, then take a drink of milk. It's so good, said Benny. He began to put more blueberries in his mouth. The dog had dinner, too. Jessie gave him bread as he lay on the ground beside her, and he drank milk out of her hand. When dinner was over, there was some milk left in each bottle. We'll have the rest of the milk for breakfast, said Jessie. Tonight we're going to sleep on beds. Let's get some pine needles now. Soon the children had a big pile. Henry jumped into the boxcar, and Jessie gave him the pine needles. He made 4 beds in one end of the car. This side is the bedroom, said Jessie. What will the other side be? Asked Benny. The other side? Asked Jessie. Let me think. I guess that will be the sitting room, and maybe some of the time it can be the kitchen. Then she said, come now, come and get washed up. She took some soap, and they went down to the brook. That will be fun, Benny, said Violet. We'll splash in the brook just like the little brown bear does. She knew that Benny did not like to wash. The children were all very hot, and so they splashed in the cold water. We'll have to have a line to dry the towels on, said Jessie, so she took the string out of the laundry bag and tied one end of it to a tree. The other end of the string she tied to the boxcar. This made a good clothesline. When she had washed one towel and Violet had washed the other, they hung both towels on the clothesline. It looks like a home, said Henry. Jessie was thinking. We ought to get some water to drink before we go to bed, she said. But what can we put in it? Let's put all the milk into 2 bottles, said Henry. Then we can fill the other 2 with water. Good, said Jessie. You go alone to the fountain, Henry. You can hide if anyone comes along. Henry went out very quietly and soon came back with 2 bottles full of cold water. Benny drank a little, but he was almost asleep. The other children helped him into the boxcar. They all climbed in, Jessie carrying the dog. He lay down at once beside her. It is so hot that we'll have to leave the door open, said Henry. Soon they were fast asleep, dog and all. The moon came up, but they did not see it. This was the first time in 4 days that they could go to sleep at night as children should. So during chapter 5, we'll find out what happens